Did you know that in 1993 we were supposed to get a completely different Super Mario Bros. Movie than the one we got? One that was nearly produced by Dustin Hoffman and nearly starred Danny DeVito as Mario. But that dream draft has remained just that, a dream, and it has gone on to become one of the many legends of fandom. Greetings fanboys and fangirls, I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster, and welcome to Legends of Fandom, where we talk about the fanboy films and shows that almost happened. Today our story begins in the mid-80s, when Nintendo ruled the world. After the video game crash of the 80s, Nintendo, a little card game company from Japan, pretty much saved the industry with the Nintendo Entertainment System, a game console that promised quality that would put as much focus on characters and story as gameplay. And the formula worked, as not only did Nintendo become the top video game company for a few years, but their brand and characters very quickly became very popular, very marketable household names. And in the world of entertainment, when something is successful, it's only a matter of time before Hollywood takes notice. And in the case of Nintendo, it was Universal Studios who made the best offer for collaboration. And thus, they made The Wizard. Don't remember this movie? That's okay. All you need to know is that the whole thing is a 90-minute commercial for Nintendo products in Universal Studios theme park. While the collaboration proved to be profitable, it left a bad taste in Nintendo's mouth, as Universal basically took their brand and did whatever the hell they wanted with it. So it created a great deal of hesitation for the video game company to do business with another big studio. Now, I just want to pause for a second so we can bask in the irony that this movie happened because Nintendo didn't want to deal with Universal Studios. 30 years later, their ridiculously successful Super Mario Bros. Movie would be distributed by, you guessed it, Universal Studios. Showbiz is weird. So with Nintendo exercising the utmost caution when licensing their properties for film adaptations, how the heck did the Super Mario Bros. Movie come about? Believe it or not, the wheels were set into motion by none other than Dustin Hoffman. After the massive critical success of Rain Man, Hoffman was looking for a commercial film to work on, aka a safe picture. And with Nintendo being the hot new franchise in town, a Mario Bros. Movie seemed like the perfect fit. Hoffman made a very aggressive bid for the movie. He even recruited Rain Man writer Barry Morrow to write a draft of the script. Reports vary on whether Hoffman actually wanted to play Mario. Some say he was more interested in playing Koopa. We do know two things for sure. This is the first time during this movie's weird production that Danny DeVito would be suggested for the role of Mario, and that what Hoffman was truly after was that sweet, sweet actor-producer credit. But with that horrible wizard taste in their mouth, Nintendo would ultimately turn down Hoffman's bid, and that would be the end of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Until 1990, when the independently produced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie would be released and become one of the most successful independent films of all time. With Ninja Turtles, Nintendo saw what would be the best strategy to produce a Mario Bros. Movie, and still maintain a semblance of control. Produce the movie independently, and then have one of the big studios market and distribute the movie. Quick side note about the Ninja Turtles movie. The reason that movie is so good is because not only was it made without studio interference, but the production company that actually made the movie was Golden Harvest, which had two major assets at their disposal. Number one, the best stuntmen in the business at the time worked for them, so the fight sequences were always going to be great. And number two, they had a strong working relationship with Jim Henson, so the animatronics and puppetry were always going to be top-notch. Leitmotiv and Allied Filmmakers, the two production companies that actually made the Super Mario Bros. Movie, didn't have those things. Nonetheless, the production of the Super Mario Bros. Movie was moving full steam ahead. Concept art was being produced, locations were being scouted, and talent was being assembled. Greg Beeman was hired as the director, and Jim Genowain and Thomas Parker were hired as the screenwriters. And the producers were highly considering casting Tom Hanks as Luigi, Meg Ryan as Princess Hildy, and Danny DeVito's close personal friend Arnold Schwarzenegger as Koopa, assuming that they could get Danny DeVito to be in the movie and then get him to ask Arnie. But what would this version of the Super Mario Bros. Movie be like? Well, let's find out as we delve into what fans have come to call the fantasy draft. The movie begins 20 years in the past, where a mysterious old man drops off a baby at a church. and leaves a mushroom-shaped locket in her basket, only to be ambushed by two menacing figures who are looking for the baby. But he has a heart attack before he can answer any of their questions. Cut to the present. This is when we officially meet our titular heroes. Mario is a grumpy smartass, and Luigi is a delightfully naive optimist. The brothers chat about women during a plumbing job, Luigi expressing his desire to voice his true love towards his girlfriend, Hildy, who works at a flower shop, while Mario curses his last girlfriend, Brenda, who ditched him 3 days before their wedding to hook up with the caterer. After the job is complete, Mario is infuriated that Luigi gives the money they just earned to a homeless man, as his older, grumpier brother reminds him that they are broke, and then chastising him for being the bane of his existence, claiming that he has had to take care of him for 15 years, and finally confessing that to pay their bills, he had to take a loan from a local gangster named Big Eddie. That night, Luigi has a dream about Hildy and a mushroom-shaped locket. Important plot point: Mario's concerns about Big Eddie prove to be well-founded, as Eddie's men corner and hassle Luigi just outside the brothers' apartment building. Mario talks them down by reminding them that their beef is with him, and that he will pay them after a big plumbing job that he and Luigi have coming up. A plumbing job that Mario completely blows, when their wealthy client calls him a shrimp. So Mario responds by picking up the client's golf clubs and throwing them out the window. Did I mention that he's grumpy? Meanwhile, Luigi entertains a group of children outside of the client's apartment building by telling them a story about a genie and a fisherman from Arabian Nights. The moral of the story being that no matter how big, how powerful the guy, you can always beat him with this. Mario is then further disturbed to discover that Luigi volunteered them for a free job at a church, to which he begrudgingly agrees, in spite of his continuous griping. At the church job, they find the mushroom-shaped locket from Luigi's dream inside an ancient pipe. Luigi wants to give it to Hildy, while Mario wants to pawn it so he can pay Big Eddie. Cut to Hildy's flower shop. Luigi shows up with a pizza intending to have lunch with his girl. There, he meets Koopa in human disguise. In the script, the King of the Darklands is described as a lizard-human hybrid with an imposing disposition. He's definitely not described as a snooty germaphobe with cornrows. Koopa, in his very convincing human disguise, claims to be a private investigator who was hired by Hildy's biological parents to find her and bring her back to them. Hildy is very excited about this and blindly agrees to go with him. Luigi, however, notices a few disturbing things, namely one of Koopa's reptilian hands, as well as a quick glimpse of Koopa sneezing fire. Suffice it to say, the young plumber is understandably suspicious, so he follows Koopa and Hildy on a taxicab. Cut to Mario. The older, crankier Mario brother meets with Big Eddie, intending to give him a ruby that he found in one of the ancient pipes of the church, but the ruby turns out to be a worthless rock. So Eddie's men chase Mario across the city. Miraculously, Mario's chase scene converges with Luigi's cap, who picks him up, and then they continue chasing after Koopa and Hildy. Eventually, they follow them to an abandoned diner. The brothers explore the dilapidated eatery until they find Hildy's purse inside a giant pipe. Luigi goes to pick it up, but he and Mario get sucked into the pipe. Level 1, Part 1. The brothers emerge in a grassy meadow, where they are attacked by piranha plants. They spot a tiny mushroom creature at the mercy of the plants, and they save him. The creature introduces himself as Toad, but their introduction is cut short when Koopa's massive warship flies overhead and lands in order to pick up Hildy and Koopa, who is now in his full reptilian Dragon Man form. Luigi haphazardly runs towards the warship to save Hildy, but Koopa orders some creatures called Yellas to kill them, then boards his ship with Hildy and flies away. The Yellas charge at the brothers and Toad, when suddenly they notice Luigi's mushroom-shaped locket, and they stop and bow. Interesting development. The Yellas and Toad then take the brothers to a village where the former residents of the Mushroom Kingdom are now living. Here they learn from a wizard called Woltan that the mushroom-shaped locket is actually a sign of the royal family. See, I told you it was an important plot point. They learn that Koopa took over the Mushroom Kingdom and killed most of the royal family except for the king and the princess. So now Koopa needs Princess Hildy so he can marry her and officially become the king of the Mushroom Kingdom. The wizard then gives the brothers and Toad a map of the Mushroom Kingdom, showing them the location of all the warp pipes, assuring them that they can use them to get wherever they want to go, including home, and that their quest will yield them many riches. Luigi genuinely wants to save Hildy and help these people out, while Mario just wants to get paid and go home. Our hero, everyone! Meanwhile, Koopa explains to Hildy that he needs her to marry him willingly. So not only will he become the king, but he will be granted the crown of invincibility. Hildy refuses, so Koopa has his wizard, Beeman, get it? Beeman, because Greg Beeman was the director of the movie, to create some enchanted chocolates that will make Hildy fall in love with him. The bulk of the second act is just the Mario Brothers having adventures across the Mushroom Kingdom in their quest to get magical items so they can defeat Koopa and save Hildy. During this time, they fight some Hammer Brothers, Mario witnesses Yoshi being hatched, or as the script calls him, Junior. Luigi acquires 2 magical items, some mushroom powder that can dispel magic, as well as raccoon-themed flight gear, which sounds ridiculous when you say it aloud. They also meet a hag that says that if a man with a warm heart kisses her, she will be changed back into her former beautiful self. Mario begrudgingly kisses her and nothing happens. Get it? It didn't work, because he's an asshole. Eventually, they make it to Koopa's castle, where they infiltrate the stronghold by pretending to be the entertainment at Koopa's bachelor party. Hey, it worked for Frank Drebin. Our heroes make it to Hildy, but the enchanted chocolates that Beeman created have turned her into an ugly hag who is faithful to Koopa, and she betrays them to the guards, effectively getting them caught. They are then put into an ice dungeon, where the floor freezes every night and melts during the day. So in a few hours the floor will give way, and the brothers will fall into a pool of razorfish. With only a few moments left to live, Mario takes the opportunity to start griping incessantly and insulting Luigi viciously. Luigi has had enough and lets Mario have it. He confesses to him that the reason he stayed with him for 15 years was because his mother made him promise that he would, and try to be a positive influence on Mario, so he wouldn't grow up to be a hateful person, but he guesses that he failed at that too. Mario apologizes, and the two of them start working on trying to get out of the ice dungeon. But it is Toad who saves the day, by using some of the fungi growing on his head to poison the guard, and then tossing a rope to the brothers so they can climb to safety. Comforting that it took nearly dying for those two to finally kiss and make up, and oh my god, it's time for the wedding. The brothers and Toad make it to Koopa and Hildy's wedding, but they are too late. Hildy says I do, and Koopa gains the crown of invincibility. He puts it on and becomes all-powerful. Luigi frees Hildy from Koopa's control using the magic mushroom powder. Our heroes try to flee by crossing a bridge that's over a sea of lava, but Koopa turns Luigi into stone, and then blocks their path by landing in the middle of the bridge. This is when Mario steps up to fight Koopa alone. Koopa multiplies to confuse Mario, then shoots a few fireballs at him, which he narrowly avoids, and then uppercuts him off the bridge. Mario survives by catching a rope, and then pulling himself back up to safety. Koopa then starts monologuing about being all-powerful and Mario not being strong enough to defeat him, which reminds Mario of the story that Luigi told the kids at the beginning of the movie. So our hero whispers to himself, no matter how big, no matter how powerful, and proceeds to use the superpower he's had since the beginning of the movie, to viciously insult people whether they deserve it or not. Mario starts mercilessly chastising Koopa and goading him into growing bigger and bigger, until the bridge under his feet starts to crack. But Koopa catches on to Mario's tactic and starts hovering in the air and laughs at the plumber's futile attempt, to which Mario responds that the plan wasn't for him to break the bridge. It was for Koopa's head to grow too big for the crown. Right on cue, the crown slips off of Koopa's head, he loses his powers, and falls right into the lava below. Thank you, Mario. Your quest is over. The day is saved. With Koopa dead and his magic dispelled, Luigi changes back to normal. The wizard Waltan is revealed to be Hildy's father in disguise, and presents the Mario Brothers and Toad with medals. Mario grumbles about the reward not being an actual reward, and the king reminds him that he is richer in his heart. The hag that they met during their adventure is there for some reason. Mario kisses her again, and now that his heart is warm, I guess, she changes back into a very hot lady. Unfortunately, Mario has no time to chat with her, as him, Luigi, and Hildy get sucked into a pipe that takes them back to their world. Cut to 3 months later. The Mario Brothers plumbing van now says Super Mario Brothers. Luigi, who has now moved out of Mario's apartment, shows up to visit Mario with Hildy, his new wife. Mario muses about maybe trying new things himself when he looks out the window and spots the hot lady that used to be the hag from the Mushroom Kingdom just standing outside of his apartment. So our movie ends with everybody's favorite plumber heading outside to chat with the hot lady that's obviously stalking him. While the script needs some work, I liked it, and I can actually picture Danny DeVito making the very grumpy and abrasive Mario likable. And now we arrive at the most important question of this video. Why didn't this happen? Well, there were several contributing factors, but everyone agrees that the dominoes started to fall the moment that director Greg Beeman's next movie came out, Mom and Dad Save the World, which was a massive box office bomb. The producers of Super Mario Bros. Started to have second thoughts about the collaboration with him, and eventually fired him and replaced him with husband and wife duo Rocky Morton and Annabelle Jankel, whose only experience was in working on music videos and the obscure sci-fi series Max Headroom. This is the part of the story that confounds me, especially as somebody who has actually seen Mom and Dad Save the World and has sat through every single episode of Max Headroom. As not only did they replace an experienced filmmaker with a couple of filmmakers that were not as experienced, but Mom and Dad Save the World is actually a decent movie that in many ways resembles Super Mario Bros. Max Headroom, while unique, innovative, and thought-provoking, doesn't resemble Mario Bros. In any way. And more importantly, it's not good. This show is tedious, convoluted, and a lot of the time, boring. My only theory as to why Morton and Jenkel were hired is because the producers and Nintendo wanted the movie to be more edgy. Very much in the same vein as the Batman and Ninja Turtles movie from that era. As far as what happened with the cast, no official offer was ever made to Meg Ryan. One was made to Schwarzenegger, but he turned it down. Tom Hanks, however, was attached through most of the production, but the producers dropped him after both Turner and Hooch and Joe vs. the Volcano bombed at the box office. I'm starting to sense a pattern here. Oh, and don't feel bad for Hanks, he ended up doing okay. As far as Danny DeVito, a few offers were made, but none that entice him to put pen to paper. The producers even pretended to offer the role to Bruno Kirby, to make it seem like multiple actors were competing for the role, but this failed to get Danny's attention, and ultimately he decided to play the Penguin in Batman Returns instead. And I think we can all agree that that was the best choice. The production of the actual movie that we got is one that is famous for being riddled with problems, miscommunications, and horrible mishaps. The biggest tragedy of which was that Genuine and Parker's original script was butchered repeatedly to make the production less costly and the movie more shootable. And that's how we ended up with this oddball Mario Brothers in an alternate Blade Runner dinosaur dimension movie that barely resembles the game. But what do you think? Are you among the few that still has a soft spot for the movie that we got? Or are you among the many fans that yearn for the dream draft? Let me know in the comment section below, as we have once again reached the end of this video. So, do you know of any fanboy films or shows that almost happened? Feel free to let me know at erod@inbox.com. And who knows, your suggestion might end up being the topic of the next Legends of Fandom. Until then.